It's lights out and away we go. Verstappen and Norris get away equally well. George Russell ahead of Alex Albon, and Max Verstappen will lead into turn one from Norris. Look up there from George Russell.
Hello IndyCar and Formula One fans. Welcome to Formula Punt Racer, the YouTube channel where car racing and comedy collide. At long last, after being very busy, I'm here today to give you my review on the Dutch Grand Prix, which occurred back on the 27th of August in Zandvoort, as well as the IndyCar round at the Worldwide Technology Raceway outside of St. Louis. First, let us begin with the Dutch Grand Prix, when it was actually before it was lights out and away we Vincent van Gogh. It would be a bit of a Rembrandt for some rivals, as during practice, it was not good news for AlphaTauri driver Daniel Ricciardo of Australia, because in that practice round, his fellow countryman Oscar Piastri at Team McLaren spun out at the horseshoe corner and crunching his McLaren up, and Daniel Ricciardo, with nowhere to go, crashed in the same spot right before he hit Piastri. Unfortunately, in a boneheaded move, Ricciardo did not take his hand off the steering wheel, and when his car went headfirst into the tire barrier, he broke his hand, so he was ruled out of racing for the Dutch Grand Prix.
No!
After Daniel Ricciardo had broken his hand and was unfit to race, you'd probably wonder who would be his replacement at AlphaTauri. Would it be Nick de Vries once again, for the delight of the Dutch fans? Actually, it was not Nick de Vries at all.
Oh, yeah.
What? So if not Nick de Vries, who would replace Daniel Ricciardo at AlphaTauri, you ask? It turned out to be Formula 2 and 3 and German touring car driver Liam Lawson of New Zealand. Unfortunately, if you must know, no, he is not related to motorcycle racer Eddie Lawson. But it does give good balance, I suppose. And furthermore, it's unfortunate that for Liam Lawson's debut race in Formula One, he would start dead last in the Dutch Grand Prix. Oh. In contrast to Liam Lawson starting dead last, pole sitter would be the local boy and championship leader, Max Verstappen of Red Bull. Just what the fans are gunning for. When it was lights out and away they Vincent van Gogh, Max Verstappen took the lead ahead of Lando Norris's McLaren that started second. It was already wet here or there, but by the second lap, the rains came down more heavily and the drivers began to pit from soft tires to intermediates, which is a hybrid of dry and wet tire range, you could say, for grip of these cars, if you wonder what intermediate tires do. And it would create quite a shuffle of lead changes. And the most to benefit would be Max's teammate Sergio Perez of Mexico, and like the Red Bull he was, he would charge to the lead. Now that would be giving his Mexican fans something exciting as usual to talk about. Given how dominant Max Verstappen has been all season long, winning all but 2 races, well, it was only by lap 13 that Max Verstappen retook the lead over from his teammate Perez. But thanks to the constant rainfall coming down in Zandvoort, it would be game over for the American in the race, Logan Sargent of Williams, who would crash out on lap 16. And it's unfortunate because 45 years ago was the last time an American had won an F1 race at all, and it was Mario Andretti at the 1978 Dutch Grand Prix. But it was essential for Mario to take his one and only World Championship in Formula One. Tough luck for Logan Sargent, though, who continues to maintain his reputation of gaining 0 points in the championship thus far.
Coming up right now.
Oh, I just went in there a bit too quick. Clearly still a bit damp. You okay? You okay?
Yes, Logan Sargent was okay, a bit shook up, but the only thing hurt in that accident was his feelings. And seeing how down and out he was, as you see from this video, I'm just sorry nobody was there with a blanket and a picnic basket with full of snacks to butter him up. By the time Max Verstappen had retaken the lead, the rain had stopped and the sun had come out. But that wouldn't be the end of weather being a factor in this race. In fact, earlier on in the race on the first lap, Charles Leclerc's Ferrari went side by side with Oscar Piastri's McLaren, and it only caused a little front wing damage right there.
Major fender bender.
Unfortunately for Leclerc, When he and the other drivers scrambled into the pits on lap 2 to change from soft tires to intermediates when the rains came, not only would it be a costly pit stop for Leclerc as they had to change his front wing, but the team weren't even ready with the right tires, so that was costly, and that really knocked him down the leaderboard. But in the end, on lap 41, there was actually some unknown internal damage to the car because of this contact with Piastri, and lap 41, Leclerc's Ferrari charge once again got glued.
Oh.
Ugh! When the green flag came out again after Logan Sargent's accident, not only was Max in the lead, but he continued to steamroll away, putting on a dominant performance, with Sergio Perez, his teammate, and Fernando Alonso of Spain at Aston Martin barely able to hang on to second and third place. And then on occasion, there was Pierre Gasly, who ended up in third. But as the race was getting closer and closer to the finish, the sun was being covered by the clouds once again, and with 11 laps to go, the track got wet all over again, and it got considerably worse as the drivers switched from medium and soft tires to once again the green-ringed intermediate tires, which would be a little more grippy in wet weather, but the most maximal tire, the blue-ringed wet tires, which is the most effective in rain, wasn't good enough. As the rains got even harder and harder, lap 63, it would be the end for Alfa Romeo driver Zhou Guanyu, who crashed in the first corner. He wasn't hurt. 2 laps later, after Zhou Guanyu's crash, the race was brought to a stop, waiting for the rains to subside. Ironically, 1 lap before Zhou Guanyu crashed out, Sergio Perez's Red Bull went off course in the same spot, but he was barely able to keep his car away from the tire barrier and continue on, although that cost him his 3rd place in the race at that time, promoting Aston Martin driver Fernando Alonso to 2nd place. Unfortunately, the rains continued to get worse. As I said, on lap 65, the organizers had the race stopped until the rain subsided. With this race drenched and flooded, it seemed that canoes were more appropriate to continue this race than cars. What a wet mess. I love that gurgling sound coming from Toby Scott Ganger. From the Don Bluth movie Rockadoodle, if you're wondering where that gurgling sound came from. Toby always made me laugh when you played Edmund in that movie. I hope you're doing wonderful with your career at this point. Unfortunately, if you're wondering how long did it take for the rains to subside before the race would finally restart with 7 laps to go, we had to wait an agonizing 50 minutes, but it's nice to know the Dutch fans were not about to budge from their seats despite being drenched in rain. Still, the wait to go back to green from red was so tiring. Whoa! Whoa! What an amazing dream I just had. I'd envisioned Formula One cars racing in the streets of Philadelphia, and Aston Martin and Ferrari were kicking Mercedes and Red Bull's ass. But just when it looked like I was about to see who was going to come out on top, Lance Stroll of Aston Martin or Charles Leclerc Ferrari, I woke up. Still, what a great thought it would be to see Ferrari and Aston Martin hog the podium. Merry Christmas is what I'd say. But let me get back to my review of the Dutch Grand Prix, shall I? Sorry about that, everyone. When the race finally restarted after the rain subsided, it was a 7-lap sprint to the finish. And no doubt, with Max still in the lead, you're probably wondering, was it wise to bet on the Flying Dutchman to win the race? Well, with 7 laps to the finish and a promising dominant car that he's had all season long, you would be a few guilders or dollars or euros richer for betting on the Flying Dutchman as Max Verstappen would take his 9th victory in a row and 11th this season for Red Bull, extending his championship lead. And to the delight of all the local Dutch fans, the Flying Orange wins again.
I told you the British believe me. I told you. Yeah. I told you.
Bedankt, JeroenKrabbe, for giving us your hindsight in thinking that Max was simply going to win the Dutch Grand Prix. Oh yes, I'm a few dollars richer because I bet on the Flying Dutchman myself, and with a lot of the Dutch fans out there dressed in orange, well, gefeliciteerd, Max. Fernando Alonso of Aston Martin would finish second, and in fact set the fastest lap of the race, which gave him an extra point in the Drivers' Championship, keeping his third place for the moment secure ahead of Lewis Hamilton, while of course Max continues to extend his championship lead with Mexico's Sergio Perez in second. Third place went to Pierre Gasly of Alpine Renault after Sergio Perez, who finished the race in third, ended up getting a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pits. Carlos Sainz Jr. would finish fifth for Ferrari, so it was not a great day for Ferrari, but a splendid one for Aston Martin, getting their first podium finish since the Canadian Grand Prix earlier this year. Well, that concludes part 1 of this 4-parter of playing catch-up, you could say. My next video will speak of the IndyCar round at the Worldwide Technology Raceway, also known as Gateway, outside of St. Louis, Missouri. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you like this video where car racing and comedy collide, please comment on what you think of my videos, share with your friends, and subscribe. Could always use more subscribers, and click the notification bell to be notified of new postings. See you in the next video when I tour the IndyCar round at Gateway. And once again, Max Verstappen, gefeliciteerd on winning on home soil. I am Aaron Cylinder, firing on all cylinders.